Hello, and welcome everyone to our research presentation. We will have two presenters today. I'm David Velez,
And I'm Harry Staley.
and our presentation is called Detecting Insider Threats from Within Your Network. This research has four primary contributors and one academic sponsor, including Harry and I. The other two researchers are Navin Mathew and Daniel DeLeon, and our academic sponsor is Dr. Jaeon Yang from Texas A&M University, San Antonio. Let's step into our presentation. First, we'll cover our research goals. This will give you an overview of our project, and each aspect will be covered in more depth as we progress through this presentation. What was our goal? We had 5 distinct goals. The first step was to build a model network that simulates a small business environment with infrastructure that is commonly seen in today's industry. So our research network was designed with this purpose in mind, to capture results that are in a simulated environment and not in a vacuum. Next, we detected reconnaissance activity in real time using technical controls so we can identify and fingerprint them using an algorithm. After successfully identifying the ongoing reconnaissance within the network, we patched our software to target these packets within intrusion detection system rules. We will then utilize machine learning to automatically assess the network and flag the malicious network activity. Lastly, we intend to understand the presence of existing network attack surfaces by collecting network data, studying reconnaissance scans, and analyzing their behavioral patterns. We do all of this in order to further the knowledge base surrounding these often overlooked threats that exist in the internal network. The insider threat.
In order to more fully understand the insider threat, we have to ask two questions. Who is the insider threat, and what level of damage can they cause? The insider threat can manifest itself through either an act of negligence or malice. Some examples of negligent insider threats are Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, and Richard Smith, the CEO of Equifax. As leaders of major corporations who have billions of global customers, they are ultimately responsible for the security and safety of their users' data. As we have seen over the most recent presidential election, Facebook has the capability to influence the election of global leaders, stifle free speech, and facilitate propaganda campaigns on a global scale. Richard Smith, CEO of Equifax, controls the personal identifiable information of you, your family, your ancestors, and every single creditor you have or have ever had. With the information that Equifax possesses, identity theft is a real concern. In more extreme cases, we have the malicious insider threat. For example, Edward Snowden is a popular hacktivist who caused millions, if not billions of dollars worth of damage to our intelligence infrastructure. While some feel he is a hero or a patriot, regardless of his motives, he still acted maliciously, causing irreparable damage to our government's ability to surveil threats to national security. Now, Aldrich Ames needs no introduction. His activities were of more grave concern. He maliciously shared information with the KGB that compromised dozens of United States secret agents, leading to their deaths, and damaging American intelligence gathering efforts for decades. Digging deeper into additional case studies uncovered more damages that an insider threat can cause. In 2019, Capital One suffered a breach where 100 million accounts were exfiltrated by a former employee. Tesla had a disgruntled employee make malicious changes to their code base and exfiltrate data in 2018. Anthem, Blue Cross, and Blue Shield had a negligent employee cause the leakage of 78.8 million individuals' personally identifiable information. Lastly, Target had a partner vendor accidentally cause a data breach that ended up costing the company $18.5 million in damages, which affected 41 million customers. How many customers do you have? Now, what is our methodology? We've just explained to you who the insider threat and what the damage they can cause. If you look at the attack kill chain, reconnaissance is where everything begins. Before weaponization, before exploitation, before the attack actually occurs, it all begins with reconnaissance. As researchers, our intention is to stop an attack by detecting the insider threats before the attack actually happens. How did we test our research? We built a model research network that is designed like your everyday small business. Our motivation for this is twofold. We wanted to show how to use open source technologies and see how things interact in a small network. We all know that multinational corporations have the funds available to actively detect insider threats. We know that governments and state actors have these abilities as well. But what about the small mom and pop business that might only have a couple of thousand customers and employees? Isn't their data important also? Aren't they liable or culpable for what happens to them or their customers' data? Given the obvious answers to these questions, we decided to use some popular open source technologies to build our model. One such technology is OpenVPN, which we used to allow remote access into the network and service infrastructure. On this infrastructure, we use the Ubuntu operating system for our major services such as file services, web services, chat, and email. We chose Windows because who doesn't have a few Windows machines these days? It is the most popular operating system in the world. Then we chose Ubiquiti for our network infrastructure, for their excellent and inexpensive commercial-grade equipment that most small businesses can't afford.
So, with this simulated environment, what was the process of collecting data? We used RockNSM as our network security monitoring server, which sniffs on the traffic and aggregates the network data over the wire. Networking agents were installed in all of our virtual machine nodes, which reported to the network monitoring server on all its local and network activity. Using the Ubiquiti switch, we mirrored the network port to the VMware server that houses all of our VMs so that the collection of data was recorded onto RockNSM. After collecting the data, we analyzed our findings. Built on top of an Elk stack, RockNSM employs Kibana to visualize the network data. By configuring dashboards, we were able to customize our views to sift through the network traffic to search for suspicious and malicious packets and use Suricata, which is an intrusion detection system, to classify their threat levels. So then, what kind of metadata was analyzed? During our simulation, we performed various actions over the wire to simulate real-life traffic, like sending an email, chatting, accessing files to create network noise. While this activity is ongoing, a reconnaissance scan is performed. Conducting deep packet inspection on the network traffic captured, we retrieve source and destination IP addresses and ports, protocol information, and packet headers. Using Nmap, a popular choice of port scanners for white hats, gray hats, and black hats, for its simple-to-use command line interface and versatility, we perform various levels of port scanning. Looking at the figure on this slide, you can see that a Tier 3 scan compared to a Tier 2 yields widely different levels of network noise. Depending on the level of intensity of these scans with the simulated network environment, of the research network, two scans were not visibly noticeable: the Tier 1 and Tier 2 scans. The Tier 1 and Tier 2 scan network activity are nearly impossible to see with your out-of-the-box dashboards that sniff the traffic, as the recon scans blend in with the rest of the network. In our trials, we utilized Suricata as our IDS. In our low-level scans, we were unable to detect any level of threat from the scans. This is where we decided to focus our research. After aggregating the data, analyzing malicious network traffic, performing sneaky port scans, and tinkering with dashboards, we found some interesting results.
Analyzing the behavior of port scans, we focused on the frequency of each type, even performing scans against uncommon ports greater than 1023. We found a pattern. We use this pattern as a basis of our algorithm to narrow down the suspicious scans. Looking at the two figures to the right, we were able to identify and isolate only port scans. We verified this by reading the Nmap port scanner documentation and found that the periodic scans of both the paranoid Tier 1 and sneaky Tier 2 scans have a predefined pulse. In the case of the paranoid scan, it only sent one packet every 5 minutes, which became a needle in a haystack of network noise. We also did some tests against Suricata and found if a port scan is conducted in the common port range below 1024, no matter the intensity level, Suricata did not detect any level of threat. This is the out-of-the-box configuration for the product. It is pre-configured to greenlight any activity without raising an alarm if the port scan is probing a common port. Users without the knowledge to make configuration changes to the IDS could implement the system using defaults, which could be detrimental. The reason for this poor performance is simple. Common ports such as HTTPS on port 443 and SSH on port 22 represent two protocols that are common but could potentially allow unauthorized entry onto the network. If a small business simply uses the out-of-the-box intrusion detection system without configuring very specific rules, even an intense level scan could go undetected, exposing the small business to possible attack from the insider. So, knowing this begs the question, how is this information useful? Quite simply, cyber attacks can be stopped dead in their tracks during the reconnaissance phase, before the insider threat is able to find and attack a target system. Now, how can we perfect and use this information to further our research? By potentially building a better intrusion detection system. We are planning on doing additional research that will do deeper packet analysis on not just Nmap, but other port scanners, so that we can detect their patterns as well, and build those patterns into our algorithm. Finally, we're going to develop a machine learning model to suss out and discern any other previously undetected patterns within the packet data. This will help the IDS become a learning platform to make the network more hardened against insider threats. If you have any questions for us, please contact us via the information on the slide. Thank you for listening to our presentation. We would like to personally thank our colleagues and our faculty sponsor, Dr. Zhang Yang, who allowed us to take on this challenging research proposition. And we would also like to thank the CSCE for publishing our research. Have a great week.